G'day everybody, welcome to my classroom management scenario for EDFD 548. The scenario we're going to look at today is you are a graduate teacher who has just started midterm in your first school. The teacher you're replacing is away for the rest of the semester on sick leave, and you've been given a Year 7 class that seems to lack motivation and can be difficult to get settled down to work. They are not openly rude but seem disinterested in your subject. Many don't bring the correct equipment to class and others are regularly late. So the three questions we're going to look at today are 1. How to settle an unsettled class. 2. How to motivate unmotivated students. And 3. How to prepare them to be prepared. So question number 1, how to settle an unsettled class. We're going to look at what Bill Rogers would have to say. He would tell us to use a calm, clear, directional and positive language. That is describing and directional cues. Things such as, some of us are still calling out, let's have hands down, eyes and ears to the front. So it's describing the behaviour and giving them a direction. The key things to remember are to not ask permission, can we please do this, can we please do that, but give a direction. And also to make sure it's always a positive direction. Do this, not don't do that. Once you start to have the class settled down, I'll be going straight into employing a positive behaviour leadership model that is establishing rules and procedures of the classroom together, students and the teachers together. And it should be based around the rights and responsibilities of everybody in the room and should be stated, these rules should be stated positively. So things like a right might be to learn in a supportive environment. So the responsibility of everybody is to interact with one another in a supportive way. So the resulting rule might be maintain a safe and supportive environment as our highest priority. Once you've gotten the students to work on this activity with you, I will be wanting to launch straight into a fun, educational, opening activity that you're going to do as a routine at the start of each class to maintain that settled nature that you've worked on. Something like some physical movement to get the blood flowing. Maybe they can play a song of their choice at the start of each lesson, and while they're doing it you can work on some sort of cognitive skills, some self-reflection skills. Maybe they're going to write down some questions they have, problems they've been having, a story they want to tell they might share at the end of the class, or depending on the class maybe it's going to be a breathing activity, something to make them present, something that they can get into the class straight away and do each lesson that's going to help them become settled. And the second question is how to motivate unmotivated students. Well, what we want to do is promote some intrinsic motivation, which is what Ryan and Deci define as doing something because it is inherently interesting or enjoyable to us. We can do that by designing activities that are going to pique their curiosity, their enjoyment, their satisfaction, their excitement. So how are you going to know what is going to inherently be interesting to them? Well, you've got to learn about their interests, their hobbies, in the classroom, out of the classroom, what they do on the weekends and after school, what subjects they like or what they don't like. You might do this by surveying the students. Depending on the trust you have with the class, it might be an open discussion. You might need to do it one-on-one with different students as you go along, whatever it takes to learn about how you can actually create and implement some activities that are going to be interesting to them and that they're going to enjoy. Once you've got that, you want to differentiate your lesson plans so that you can incorporate these activities, and then I would be previewing these differences that you've made for them so they can start to get excited about what's coming up as the semester goes on. The next thing would be to assess for any anxiety in the class, because that will murder their motivation if they're feeling anxious. So consider the fact that the teacher that they did have has now left on sick leave, and how that might be influencing their needs they're fulfilling if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or what it might have done to the Kroner system or their microsystem if we look at Broff and Brenner's bioecological model of development. This can give you some cues into the source of their anxiety, and if you think it is present, then you'd be looking at motivating parents, accessing professional help, and also modelling some strategies yourself for them so they can deal with this anxiety. And again, that's going to increase their motivation if they can start to deal with it a bit better. And then of course, once you've established this idea of motivation in them, you want to maintain that. So the pace of the lessons should be fast enough that they continue to be engaged, but slow enough maybe they actually are struggling with the content. That's why they haven't been motivated in the first place. So give them extra time to work through some of the content You might want to incorporate some kind of ongoing competition with the class that lasts throughout the semester, change the scenery up from time to time, surprise them, bring in some guest speakers, always communicate why you're doing everything to keep the motivation up. And the third question is how to prepare them to be prepared. Well, first of all, I would want to consider if perhaps they're self-sabotaging because of some negative self-efficacy going on. If you suspect that's the case, look at increasing the self-efficacy. Barr and Pendergast give us some tips on how to do this. It looks like we want to get specific with them. What are they lacking confidence in? What are they confused about? What are they having problems with? And break it down further into individual skills and competencies you can work with them for them to master and build up some of that self-efficacy about the content that you're throwing at them. You might need to employ some emphatic understanding that Carl Rogers talks about, building those positive relationships between students and teachers. Maybe they're not bringing their things to class because they don't have the right equipment. You might need to provide some spares for them, lend them a helping hand, build up that trust, and it will probably influence their motivation levels in a positive way as well. And if it is a behavioural thing that might, need to look at employing some discipline, perhaps Mazzano's tangible recognition could help us here, something like this daily recognition form, where you give them a score from 1 to 20 on things like if they're coming to class on time, if they're bringing the right equipment, so they identify the areas they need to work in, but maybe they're really good at actually doing the work and they're very respectful, so you can give them good scores. They're still feeling good about themselves, but they know what it is they need to work on. And of course, at the start of the class, when you have worked on those rules and procedures with them, you'd want to incorporate something in there about bringing the right equipment to class, so you've got that rule to refer back to, especially if you do need to discipline them because of that. Alright, thank you everybody. Here is the references I used to put together this presentation, and thank you very much for listening. Bye.